Good morning everyone and welcome to this new webinar from Catenda. My name is Bianca Balzer Giorsetti. I'm the Regional Director of French-speaking countries within Catenda, and before that I worked mainly for main contractors in the UK, so I had to deal with some BIM Execution Plan. That's why I'm here today to talk about this document and how it can make your life easier. But before jumping straight into the BEP, I wanted to go back in time and go back to the roots of BIM. I'm sure that we all know by now that BIM involves people producing models instead of just drawings. And each model contains pieces of information, and the more the project progresses, the more information will be logged within those models, and models will be more and more complex. But what is really interesting about this BIM methodology is the process around the production of information, because the main issue our industry has is that each and every project is unique, and we tend to reinvent the wheel every time we have a new project. So the BIM is here to standardize that and to have some foundations to run a project with the same rules from one operation to the other, while keeping the uniqueness of a building or of an infrastructure. And processes are made of documents. Here the two main ones are the Exchange Information Requirement, or EIR for short, previously known as Employer Information Requirement. This is kind of a product sheet because it explains the project and why the client has asked for a BIM methodology on this one. And on the second part we have the BIM Execution Plan, or BEP. If we keep the same analogy as the product, the BIM Execution Plan is simply your user manual, because it will explain how you will achieve the goal sets within the EIR and make sure that you achieve what is asked from you, from the client. So those two elements are the pillars, I would say, of the standardization of a BIM methodology. The EIR, as you will understand, is mainly held by the client side, and the BIM execution plan is held by the design lead. So it could be an architect, it could be an engineering company, or a main contractor, depending on the contract type. If we are looking a little bit more deeply into what is the BEP, well, the thing I would like to mention is that it's a document that explains the common language on a project process. It evolves throughout the life of an operation. It's very important that we keep that in mind. That's why usually you produce a pre-contract BEP. This pre-contract BEP is basically here so that the client can assess your capabilities in producing and handling, a BIM project. So it's supposed to showcase your knowledge about that. Once a contract is signed, then you will move on to a post-contract BEP and the first version of it. This first version will need to involve the rest of the team of the design team, because it needs to take into account their capabilities, the software they are using, what they are used to. It's very important that everyone is involved in the drafting of this document, because it will increase the success of running this project. If you do it just by yourself, it will not necessarily be aligned with the rest of the team, and it will be more difficult to involve them in the collaboration later on. But as I said, the BEP is evolving throughout the lifetime of the project. So every time a new stakeholder is joining, could be a consultant, could be a subcontractor with design responsibilities, it should be updated. Same reason why you involve the rest of the design team. It needs to take into account their own knowledge and capacities of delivering what you're supposed to deliver. So I have no clue how many versions of or revisions of a BEP you're supposed to have at the end of a project, of a BIM project. It really depends on your one, but we should expect at least several. Why it should matter to you? Two reasons for that. The first one being that could be contractual. For example, if your client is asking to run the project in BIM level 1 or BIM level 2, well, you definitely will have to produce a BEP to explain how you're supposed to do it, basically. So no question asked. The second reason is you could see that as an investment. Do spend time on trying to understand how this document can help you in the future, and potentially start drafting a template so you don't have to draft it from scratch every time you have a new project. So invest a bit of time just for yourself or for your company, so that the next time you will have a project coming up with a specific needs from the client, you will be ready. There is also a new trend that we see coming, is that client not asking for it contractually, but because people are getting used to that, and other companies, or the type of companies, investing a lot in making sure that their teams are up to date in terms of BIM, they run it with this methodology by themselves. And if so, you still need to have a document that explains what you want to achieve, the naming conventions, the use case that you want to see happening, because each company wants to see certain KPIs, for example. So it's still important to have this document, because if you don't have it, people will not understand what their responsibilities are, and it will be more difficult for you to handle them and lead them. Now, a few tips. The first one is go and look out for recommendations. Could be recommendations from your colleagues, from the head office, from your friends in the industry, because it's very likely that at least one of them will have seen or produced even a BEP. So go and gather some examples of BEP that were used on the project. It will be very useful. There are also resources available online One example is our own BIM Execution Plan template from Catenda. I also recommend to go and look at the Building Smart website, because they have lots of pieces of content about the ISO standard, the EIR, the BEP, and it will guide you quite well on your drafting journey, I would say. And finally, there are also solutions that will help you draft your BEP and making sure that it is maintained up to date throughout the project in a collaborative way. So go and do some research. Try not to start from a blank page, because it would be very hard and even frustrating. And it's been years that projects have been run in BIM, so there are a lot of resources available now. Store it somewhere central. For me, it's essential that every project has a project space. It could be a common data environment if you're used to that, where you can store models, documents, and even collaborate on it, a bit like Bimsync here in our example. But if it's your first time and you don't have a lot of means, you can just have a Dropbox or even a SharePoint, and it would be sufficient for now. But if you want people to abide by this document, make it available to everyone, so that from time to time they will be able to see what they've been missing or what they've been doing wrong, or doing good, by the way, and make sure that you keep it up to date in this common space. Make it as simple as possible. So if it's the first time that you're drafting a BEP, of course it will be simple, because you're not used to it. It will be your first time, and you want to do something that you will understand. And the more you run projects in BIM, the more you will get used to the terms, terminologies, and capacities of the technologies even that you have at your disposal. So this is where it can be difficult to see that not everyone is as evolved and I would say knowledgeable about BIM. Remember that a team is as strong as its weakest link, so you need to make sure that when you do something, you put yourself in someone else's shoes and try to make sure that everyone can understand what you are talking about and what you will produce. It will be so much easier for you in the future to lead them. The goal here is to also educate the rest of the industry as you're educating yourself. So keep that in mind. The last tip is introduce it during kickoff, because it will be a pretty long document, and you know, when a project starts for a new stakeholder, so subcontractors or a designer or someone else, they will receive a lot of different documents, including their contracts that can be pretty long. And just hoping that they will read it is not enough. I think if you want people to get into it, you need to present what is important to you, what is important to them, and how they should deal with it. So take some time to go through it. Could be very quick because not every part is useful for everyone. Just explaining to them what is their responsibility would be a great help, because this is what they will remember. And try not to just involve the people producing the models, the plans, or etc. Involve everyone. It could be the modeler, of course, the BIM coordinator, but also the project manager of this company, because it involves everyone, especially if it is contractual. Well, that's it. Thank you for listening to this webinar. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to write to us, either at sales@catenda.no or directly to myself at bianca.giorsetti@catenda.no. I hope that you have learned some stuff today, and we hope to see you soon to our next webinar. Thank you very much and have a good day.